Good morning again. Good to see you all. My name is George Mekhail. I'm the Managing Director of Bitcoin for Corporations. And today I want to take a look at the year of 2025, which was a wild ride. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that as well, but our mission at Bitcoin for Corporations is to accelerate corporate Bitcoin adoption. And I think as you just heard Alex share, that definitely took place in 2025. More corporations are adopting Bitcoin. We're getting closer to a Bitcoin standard. The goal is to make Bitcoin like gold once was, but a better version of it. So today I want to ask the question, what did happen in 2025? It was a little bit chaotic. We know that. But I want to try to filter the noise a little bit and take a look at what's actually happening with adoption by reflecting on the facts, what actually happened. The goal here is clarity, not hype. And so I want to do this by looking at a report that BFC just published. This is our first annual report on corporate Bitcoin adoption. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, you can download it online. We synthesized basically some key insights from 2025, and let's look at some of the facts. So first of all, 1 year ago, there were about 90 public companies that were holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. The start of 2026, that number is closer to about 167. Some figures put this closer to 200, depending on kind of what source you look at. And corporate holdings grew 73% year over year, with about 500,000 Bitcoin added to balance sheets in 2025. So there was basically this Cambrian explosion of Bitcoin Treasury companies that came onto the scene. It felt like there was a new one announcing every single week. Like we were just starting to get to know Simon and MetaPlanet, and it was like, all right, here's 80 more companies. So this is kind of a look at what the adoption looked like month over month. You can see that blue bar is strategy, and everything else is all the other companies. But it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. And at Bitcoin for Corporations, we saw that growth reflected in what we were doing. But at the start of last year, 657 Bitcoin on corporate balance sheets, representing about 3% of the total supply. We're now over 1 million Bitcoin with over 5% of the supply. So I don't need to kind of drill down too much on that. Alex did a great job of sharing what that looks like. But basically, here, this is trying to just contrast what actually happened compared to sentiment. And, despite the growth, there were some challenges, and it's important to address those and take them head on. There were companies that ceased or pivoted entirely away from the strategy. Some were forced sellers. And so, for me, getting a chance to know a lot of these executives and how they think and how deep their conviction is and where they're actually trying to take this strategy has been really insightful. I think one of my favorite stories is Prenetics on this list. Prenetics is a non-endemic company. They're a healthcare supplements company backed by David Beckham. Great business, a lot of revenue. Started buying 1 Bitcoin per day, and eventually, their healthcare business was growing faster than sort of the returns on their Bitcoin strategy, and shareholders demanded that let's focus on reinvesting into the business. And so that was a pivot that, there's no judgment. There's no we're not mad at Danny. Danny's a great guy. He's the CEO. And I think part of one of the insights is we've gotten to build a relationship with these companies that really, they don't come at this from the perspective of, I love Bitcoin and, Bitcoin is the best thing ever. I should start putting it on my balance sheet. They're starting to hear about it. They're starting to learn about it, but they don't have that deep conviction that, Saylor and Fong have, where they understand that this is the digital gold rush to that degree. And so we're here to help kind of guide them and educate them. And when the market turns and shareholders are like, hey, what about that Bitcoin thing? Danny's going to pick up the phone and he's going to call us. So and it's funny. I was listening to Saylor yesterday, and I'm like, man, maybe I need to reach out to Danny and tell him about Stretch. I think that's like probably the new play. So Bitcoin, unfortunately, last year was the worst performing major asset. Silver, gold, everything outperformed Bitcoin by quite a lot. So if you're a Bitcoin maxi, I know that's not fun to hear, but it's the truth. And so it's interesting though that despite the performance of Bitcoin, corporations continued to add year over year 73% growth. I think that's the real headline coming out of a year that I think ended in a way that was challenging. In 2026, we're up 4K today, and we'll see where things go. But definitely bullish on this stat. I think this is the real signal that corporations that have deep conviction continue to stack. They understand what's going on. They're not looking at price. They're looking at a different leaderboard. And so the growth of the ecosystem, again, is reflected in the growth of Bitcoin for Corporations. Our network last year, when we came to this event, we had 13 members. Today, that's over 41 members in about 15 different countries. We have signed on for another 5 years with our partnership with Strategy, and so they're definitely committed to continue growing the ecosystem and resourcing these companies and helping them along the way. This is a look at the top 10 Bitcoin for Corporations members and kind of how they stack against every other company. Right now, our membership represents about 69% of all public holdings of Bitcoin. Not counting the ETFs, but these are CEOs and executives and teams that again believe in this mission and are stacking because they know that Bitcoin is a scarce resource and that we are in the middle of a digital gold rush. And so I'm excited to see kind of where this goes at this stage of the market. We've been having conversations and with companies who have been developing their Bitcoin strategy, getting approval from their boards. And actually this drawdown has been a blessing for them because so far they've raised their capital, but they haven't deployed yet. And so they're just chomping at the bit. So again, this is what's actually taking place despite of the price action. We also saw mergers and acquisitions, Strive acquiring Semler. We saw the completion of, the company that I work for, BTC Inc, becoming acquired by Nakamoto. And so that's exciting for me personally. I'm now, part of a company that's putting our money where our mouth is and building our own treasury strategy. And I think what is ahead for us, that means, we're going to be able to have more resources to be able to scale faster and bring this mission to different parts of the world. And so again, just to kind of recap, the conviction class to me is this group of executives who are continuing to come, continuing to show up, continuing to get to know each other, resource each other, help each other. They have a strong financial incentive. They have a duty to execute the strategy that they have put in front of shareholders. And so the reason that's bullish for me is because, they're not paper hands. They're in this to win. And so they're unfazed. The conversations that we're having here at this conference, there's actually excitement. Even before the 4K pumped, people were excited about kind of where things are headed. I was just talking to Sam Callahan backstage, and he's just like giddy. He's just so excited. And so I think, again, coming to events like this, you get to pick up a little bit on the signal. And one of those things, this is kind of the theme of the week here, right, is the birth of digital credit. And basically, this came out of nowhere. This is a brand new market class. I mean, 6 billion market cap total at the end of the year, delivering 370 million in dividends. And so it's crazy to look at the innovation that just emerged out of nowhere. A year ago, this literally wasn't here. Now it's a $6 billion industry. And I love coming to Strategy World. Genuinely one of my favorite events because you get to run into people that are coming from all different kind of parts of both the Bitcoin ecosystem, but also business intelligence. You get to kind of reflect on how massive Strategy is as an operating business. And I was hanging out last night for a little bit at XS. Don't worry, I went to bed at a responsible hour so I could be here. But I was having this conversation with the guy who showed up. He's one of Strategy's clients on the business intelligence side. And he was telling me just how excited he was about Stretch of all things. So he came here to learn about, the new business intelligence software that Strategy was delivering. And he's leaving now knowing that he can earn, 11% on his money. He's telling me, he's texting his buddies, like, you got to do this. Like, and so it just kind of dawned on me that, people don't know yet. People are just now starting to find out that this is a thing. And so how exciting is it heading into a year where we have, this new asset class that we can talk about and, show off the innovation of this part of the space. So despite, some of the good news, some of the positives, we did see some headwinds, and not just Bitcoin price action, but also through some unexpected places. Back in October, MSCI, which is one of the largest index providers in the world, proposed a rule that would have reclassified Bitcoin treasury companies. There were 39 companies that were at risk. About 8 of them were Bitcoin for Corporations members. So we mobilized. We're like, this is kind of what we were built for, a network that can advocate on behalf of our membership. We gathered signatures. We coordinated with, our main members, especially the ones who were affected. I was, coordinating very closely with the strategy team and Andrew Kang, who was kind of leading their effort. And in the end, TLDR, spoiler alert, MSCI backed down. And this is a great example of, the power of the community coming together and, again, looking out for each other. We got to sit down with MSCI through this process. We got their attention by making a lot of noise and saying, hey, this is a bad idea. These companies are actually operating companies. And to me, it was a reminder that, again, different segments of the market that we interact with have no idea really what's going on. And that's not like I'm not saying in a negative way. I'm just saying they just haven't been educated. They haven't had the opportunity to learn about what's going on and understand, what strategy is doing and how that's different from sort of legacy financial products. And so this was against, I think, a lot of odds, including Polymarket, which had this at a 73% chance that that strategy would be delisted by the end of the quarter. So that was a exciting win. And so I want to share a little bit more just about the Bitcoin for Corporations network and how it operates, how we continue to evolve and grow. With this plug from our boy Gary from Germany, who says, without BFC, the current scale of global corporate Bitcoin adoption would have been hard to imagine. That's our member company in Germany. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the plug. But basically, we are trying to scale this year in a few different ways. We hit critical mass, I think, with the Treasury companies that are now part of our membership. And so we've been slowly building the vendor and provider side of the network. So we've seen Kraken, BitGo, Crypto.com, different custody, legal, accounting, IR solutions come into the fold as a part of the network who provide products and services to these Treasury companies. And to round out sort of the operating system that we're creating, we're now talking with more and more capital allocators to be a part of the network as well. And so this kind of makes a flywheel that I think can be very virtuous for our network. And so we are now onboarding capital allocators and continuing to expand the scope of the network. And so if that's you, we'd definitely love to talk. But the point is, you don't have to do this alone. There's a lot of companies that are on the same page, fighting for the same things. We're not in competition. We are trying to collaborate. And so as I wrap up here a little bit, I want to help you plan your next conference. It's always sad when we're coming to an end here on the final day, but good news, you can come right back here to Vegas in just a couple months. We'll be at Bitcoin 2026. One of the main things that we do is symposiums, very similar to this, all around the world. We have 4 that are locked in: Vegas, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, and Abu Dhabi. We have 3 that are almost at the finish line, so we might be up to 7 events. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you at any of them. We're looking at New York, DC, and one more international event, TBD. So mark your calendars and join us. So again, whole point is you don't have to do this alone. We're here to support, and our entire team, in fact, is here. This is who they are. We would love to meet you if we haven't had a chance to meet yet. Thanks again for coming. I really appreciate you being here, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Cheers.